Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners and macabre murders from across the centuries and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 100!
100.
We have reached 100 episodes and they haven't stopped us.
They haven't. No,
They haven't caught up with us. They won't find us. Yes, we have managed to get to 100 episodes thanks to you wonderful, wonderful listeners. People who have been with us from the start, people who have just joined us this very week.
Yes, it would be very boring without listeners, to be honest.
It would.
So, yes, I'm glad you're out there.
We love you very, very much. Thank you so much for supporting us all the way through the many, many decades and tens and scores and whatever you count episodes in podcasts, because apparently I've forgotten that.
Yes, apparently.
Oh, I'm excited for what 100 will bring, Nick.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yes, and
it's going to be a good one.
It's an apt evening for it because in the UK right now, the wind is howling outside. Literally, you will probably hear it on the episode this week because it's howling down the chimney behind Nick in a very spooky kind of way. It's also a full moon, so woohoo!
But it's also slightly less spooky because it's Storm Dudley.
Oh God!
Which is a less spooky name for a storm, I feel.
Dudley.
Dudley's not overly spooky.
He comes in like, oh, I've got a lot of admin for you to fill out.
Indeed, so.
The blood that Dudley will spill. The moon is high, the wind howls around us. How are you, Nick?
I'm alright. I'm excited for episode 100. Still slightly not believing we've actually done it, but yeah, it's very good.
As we have reached 100 episodes, do by all means, dear listeners, share your favourite moments from the Poisoner's Cabinet over the last 100 episodes. What have been your highlights? There won't be any lowlights, actually. There won't be any lows.
Of course not. It's all been a constant level of wonder and excitement.
Well, I think the Golden Cadillac was a low point.
That's true. I had actually blocked that out. So.
Yeah. There's been a couple of moments where we went, oh, this, we should not have brought this upon the world.
The mustard one, that's now coming back to me. That was not wise.
I've used that over a nice pork chop, actually. In the Poisoner's Cabinet office, which is just a door on a floor and a lot of chartreuse being thrown at each other, we decided that it was time for a celebration.
Quite right.
As we have reached 100 episodes, we want to give something back to you lovely listeners.
Yes.
So we are going to be doing a giveaway this weekend.
Indeed, it's something we've been planning for a while. So we thought now is the time to do it. So yes, we are going to be giving away some very exciting cocktail paraphernalia to help you make your own marvellous creations.
The details will be released on our social media channels. That's where the giveaway will be held. We will give you details this weekend. Just go onto our Instagram. All will be revealed about what you can win and how you can enter.
Exciting.
The wonderful things that we shall do. Any poisonings this week, Nick?
No, there's been too much celebration and general joyful wonderment after reaching 100. No time for that poisoning shenanigans.
No, all we did was make nice cocktails and cake. Didn't pump them full of strychnine.
Okay, I'm glad.
It makes us very popular at parties, obviously.
Yes, the way you're staring at me there, was I didn't pump them full of strychnine and...
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Slightly questioning that now.
Eat up, Nick.
You want the podcast all to yourself.
That would be a very apt 100th episode if I just was some sort of mad reach for power. Well, speaking of poisoning your friends with cake and launching a coup against your best friends, I think it's time for us to thank our lovely, delicious new Patreon subscribers.
We definitely should. Thank you so much for joining us on our 100th episode. Thank you very much to Fiona McKinley-Bellis.
To Snizzlebigs.
And to Katie Dell. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much to sexy, sexy Patreon subscribers. Snizzlebigs, well done on the name.
Excellent name there. Excellent name.
Oh, excellent, excellent. We'll never know who you are. It's wonderful. We had fun on Patreon this week. We went to Cult Town again.
Fun is the word.
It was gruesome.
It was fairly harsh.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal cult, this one.
But it had a cauldron. Everyone loves a good cauldron.
Yeah, we haven't had a cauldron yet.
No, there's a definite lack of cauldrons in the world, I feel.
And
I've got a very small one.
Do you?
I do, in the other room. It's about this big.
You've talked of this cauldron before, and I have never seen it.
I shall show you my cauldron.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right, yeah.
No, the cauldron on Patreon did not disappoint because that was just full of nightmares, quite frankly. Cauldrons, like, oh God, what are witches put in there? Like, now I know, and now I can't sleep.
Not all witches, I feel.
The successful ones.
Yeah,
well, yes, if you want to know what the hell we're talking about, you should come and join us on Patreon for new episodes every single week. Extra content like bloopers and little mini stories. We have a wonderful community on Patreon that love to have a chat, so join us there if you haven't already. But, Nick, the moon is high, the wind it howls. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
To drink cocktails and talk about poison?
Oh, yes, I think so. Yes.
Or we could drink poison and talk about cocktails.
None of that. Rain it in now.
It's like an evil creature that comes up to you and you go, rain it in. I go,
Go on,
okay.
bring it down.
Okay, sorry. Overpitched it, didn't I? Came on too strong.
Came on too strong there.
Strong. Should we go with the first one?
We go with the first one. Now I'm in a celebratory mood.
We'll go with the first one. Hooray, 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 because as we've established, we can't possibly tell a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell, and it will flavour our cocktail of the week. Nick's story this week, and Nick's pick. Common ingredient.
Common, everyday ingredient.
Easily found.
Yes, definitely.
In any English country garden.
Absolutely.
The secret ingredient, Nick, is
a lovely, lovely dragon.
a dragon.
Dragon.
It's a dragon!
Who doesn't have a dragon to
I
hand?
bloody love a dragon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love a dragon.
Bring it on.
Now, what kind of dragon is it? Is it like cutie little emoji kind of dragon, or big sort of Game of
No,
Thrones dragon?
I think we're going with sort of the big scary dragon.
Or Chinese dragon?
No, we're not. We're not going for
okay.
a Chinese dragon. No, we're going for a big scary bitey
no.
dragon.
Do dragons bite you?
Well, they've got big teeth. Poke them a lot, they will.
Oh, nips you. Get off me.
I'm thinking probably more of a nip. More of a devour. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, they incinerate you. Oh, I wish dragons were real. I'd have a
They
pet
are.
dragon.
Yeah.
Are they real?
Yeah.
Well, Komodo dragon.
Well, exactly, yeah.
They're quite terrifying, though.
Well, indeed, yeah.
Yeah, they bite
As
you.
dragons generally are.
The Komodo dragons bite you, and then your limbs rot off from disease.
Sounds fairly unpleasant. Anyway, there's not one of those in my cocktail.
Okay, fine. So with a dragon as your ingredient, inspiration, have you squeezed a dragon?
Squeeze a dragon, I've juiced a dragon.
Juiced a dragon. It was not best pleased.
No, it was not best pleased. But
Many nips were had.
yes, indeed. But 1.5 ounces of dragon juice.
Maybe dragons like it. You don't know.
You never know.
We
You
don't
never
know enough about dragons that we don't know what it likes. But with dragon as your inspiration, what on earth have you come up with, Nick?
So this week, for episode 100, we are having a dragon's heart.
Oh, I love this already. Whatever it is, it's fantastic. Is it just a big pulsating heart?
Big pulsating heart.
Yeah, if you put like a cow's heart on a plate and then go, here you go.
And a straw.
I mean, it's episode 100, anything can happen.
Anything goes.
I wouldn't put it past you. I wouldn't put
you're
it
wise not to.
bloody past you to blend a heart and go, here you go, dragony goodness. A dragon's heart. Oh, sounds all medieval and mystical. That's exciting. Well, I think it's high time for us to have a cocktail, so let us dash into the poisonous cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, so we'll see you in a minute.
We'll see you in a bit.
And we're back!
Hello.
Oh, Nick, a dragon's heart we
Dragon's
have.
heart.
The dragon's heart looks rather peachy.
It does, yes. It is. It's got a cloudy hue.
I must admit that when you said a dragon's heart, I was expecting something either blood red and oozing, or maybe green with something oozing through it.
You were
But
expecting oozing, though. That was the main thing you were going for.
a lot of things were oozing, yes, oozing. I wasn't sure how you were going to
Okay.
achieve it, but
Right.
that's what I was expecting. But this is a delightful coloured
Well,
drink.
I apologise. I've lacked on the oozing front.
I mean, we don't know what a dragon's heart looks
This
like.
is very true.
I think it looks like the fires of hell, but actually this is not so bad. It's orangey, peachy, so
Well, it looks interesting.
I mean, like a dragon's heart. I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of any of
No,
this.
neither do I at all. So it's.
Well, you know what's in it.
I do, and this is what terrifies me.
Oh, what?
No, well, before we start this, I'm gonna. There's something that the woman who has developed this beverage.
Did she send out an apology to everyone?
No. There's been written in the particular article that I got this recipe from. So, yeah, the Dragon's Heart cocktail is nothing short of interesting.
Oh, that's some passive-aggressive stuff there.
I thought, it's not the adjective that perhaps one would hope for.
No, if you saw that written on a poster for a movie, you would not see that movie.
But I've made you a drink.
Okay, I'm
An
wondering.
interesting drink.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the article was her obituary. Okay, this is nothing short of interesting. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it's exciting, and then we can come up with a better adjective. But okay, nothing short of interesting. Well, it's 100 episodes, so it should be one thing or another. I'd rather it was spectacular or awful.
I agree.
If
I
it's
entirely agree.
boring, it's not fitting.
Yep.
And if it is boring, we're going to add more stuff to it to make it more exciting. So, wonderful. Okay, so the dragon's heart, I'm going to smell. Oh, okay. It's an interesting aroma. I don't know what it is. Booze.
Booze is boozy.
Alcohol. Okay, well, let's dive in. The
Very
dragon's
restless.
heart. If we drink the dragon's heart, do we become the dragon?
Yes. That's how this works.
Oh, awesome.
Interesting is a word for it.
That is interesting.
Well, not overly nice.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, it just tastes of orange juice and stuff.
Which is amazing because there's a fuckload of stuff going on in there.
Really? Maybe we're being too harsh. Let us try it again. I did just also, guys, have a big mouthful of brie because I was hungry and went into Nick's kitchen. This is the kind of person I am. When I went, Nick, have you got any food? And he went, there's brie. And I went, oh, great. And just tore off a hunk of brie and I've just eaten that. So maybe I have not treated my palate well. Hang on.
No, I'm going to go along with the interesting part.
Yeah, it's not bad. And it's not blur.
It's not, no.
I'm really intrigued to know what's in it because it tastes... I feel like there's orange juice in it and there's other citrus in there. So it's nice and sharp.
See if you can smell something.
Well, that's it. There was a weird scent. And also, my nose is blocked all the time. I mean, it smelled... I don't know. It had something. I don't know.
Well, perhaps it's because I know what's in it. I'm smelling it because I know what's in
That's
it.
the
I
thing.
don't know.
As soon as you know what's in it,
So
then you're like,
maybe.
it's definitely got hints of twigs and...
There's no hints of twigs. So I'm wishing I put twigs in there.
Okay, well, talk us through it. So what flavours should be coming through?
Yeah, so there is some orange juice. You picked up on the orange juice.
Okay.
There's some orange juice in there. We have rum. We have an aged rum.
Oh, the way you bloody stretch that out. Aged rum. Aged, is it? In a barrel?
Yes,
Oh.
for 7 years.
It broke a mirror and it was cursed to the barrel. Dark rum or white rum?
It's a dark rum.
Oh, nice.
We have mezcal.
Ooh.
Which is what I thought you might be able to smell. Because there is definitely... I can smell the mezcal. I can't smell the other stuff. I can smell the mezcal. So...
Well, now you've said it, I guess I could pick it out, but it's not really strong.
Sorry.
It's not like I went, oh, there's definitely mezcal in there.
So there's mezcal. Then we have a bit of ginger liqueur.
What?
Bit of ginger in there. Bit of elderflower. Going on in there.
Elderflower.
Bit of lime.
Right.
And some bitters.
And
So it's quite a combination of stuff going on in there. Yeah.
why is it a dragon's heart?
I don't know. What would you expect a dragon's heart cocktail to have?
Well, I would expect it to either... I thought you were going to wheel out some green chartreuse. I genuinely thought...
Why would that be dragon hearty?
Because dragons are green.
Wait. Right, because
What?
dragons
The
are
look
green.
that Nick just gave me, like I had just come into his house and pissed all over his furniture. But green dragons? Are you insane? I'm sorry, that is a common thing with dragons.
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
Facts about dragons.
Green dragons, or scaly, or something, or you know, is a
Scaly
dragon.
doesn't equal green.
Or I was thinking dragon's heart oozing. I know I keep saying
Again,
oozing, but like blood red, like a dragon's heart. This seems like a really nice, almost summery cocktail with a really dragon's heart name. I don't think that a hero fighting the enemies and rescuing the damsel from the dragon would then be rewarded with this drink. Even a girl would be like, this is pretty girly. You know, I'm not saying that the hero was a man necessarily. It could be a big feisty woman. But she would go, this is even girly for me. The dragon's this is hurtful.
This is the thanks I get. After 100 cocktails, 100 different carefully mixed cocktails, I get it thrown back in my face.
I mean, I will throw it in your face if you want. No, it's not that bad. I'm still going to drink it. I'm just saying it annoys me that this is here and it's called the Dragon's Heart. Because we're all thinking, Dragon's Heart, yay, Game of Thrones, mysticism, fighting the dragon, that's the adjective. Adjective, It's nothing short of, yeah. And it's a rather lovely summery drink that one would have on the porch. With elderflower in it and a hint of ginger. Maybe that is the secret of all dragons.
You gotta make up a new dragon's cocktail. Go on.
I might just go and get the most robust, darkest, strongest, deadliest drinks you have in the cupboard and just mix some shit up.
Go on then.
Might get the
I'm
chartreuse.
waiting.
Well, I mean, do you like it?
I don't mind it, actually. It's growing on me.
I mean, it's fine.
It's fine. It's not one I'll make again.
I mean, no. Actually,
Just
you know what?
no.
No. It's not good enough, Nick. Not good enough. You've sullied the dragon name.
I have.
You have brought shame on the House of Dragons. Doodle-doo, 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 doodle-doo. Okay, so we did decide. Well,
Sinead decided.
Yeah.
Sinead decided.
I decided, no, it's 100 episodes. We need to make one other cocktail to go with the story this week. And I improvised.
You
people.
made one up.
I made one up.
Okay. I mean, it certainly looks red.
See, doesn't it? Doesn't it look red?
It looks the part, I'll give you that.
The Dragon's Revenge, let's call it that, after someone took its heart out and poured elderflower all over it. So yeah, it looks bloody...
It looks very nice. No idea what's in it, apart from I saw you just come and go from the kitchen with armfuls of bottles that you've taken out of the cabinet, so...
You didn't see me just standing in the kitchen going, I have made a terrible mistake.
So yeah.
So give it a try, Nick. Tell us what you think.
Oh good, I get to try this.
You get to try it. You get to try. It's so rare that I get to make you one.
Yeah, this is true, and there's a reason for that. Okay, well, it smells Campari-ish. There's a definite twang of that going on.
No.
Strangely bittery sweet. Well, there's definitely Campari in there.
Yes. What do you think of it? Do you hate it, or do you just like, maybe not, Sinead? Or do you not mind it?
It's interesting.
What is it like the phrase the woman said?
This is a better version of interesting.
Oh, good. Hey.
Maraschino?
Yeah, there's a bit of maraschino in there.
I have to say the Campari is somewhat overpowering.
Yeah, I'm never sure how much Campari to put in, but it's not. There's a larger quantity of something else.
I'm intrigued by something else.
I think I've done well.
Is there gin as well?
No.
I don't know.
Mezcal.
Really?
Yes. And a bit of ginger syrup. So a larger quantity of mezcal.
Yep.
Then about a measure of Campari. So maybe too much Campari. I'm never really sure about that because, with Negronis, you sort of like 1 and 1. And then I did, again, a sort of a half of maraschino.
Not unpleasant.
And then a couple of... and then I tasted it and went, oh, that's bitter. And then I added some of the ginger syrup because it was there. And I thought, aha, the Dragon's Revenge. So the fieriness of the ginger, bloody red of the Campari, and the smoke from the mezcal, for it does shoot the fire. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that's got the makings of a tasty beverage.
Hey!
Well done, yeah, absolutely.
And I did not know what I was doing, Nick. I am pleased with that.
You should be. No, you have to write that one down.
Hey. So there you go, the Dragon's Revenge next to the Dragon's Heart.
Nicely done.
Hey.
Nicely done, you.
I'm really pleased that worked out. Yeah. You see, I have learnt a thing or two from you over 100 episodes, Nick. And I've also learnt that if you're served a kind of a interesting cocktail, never settle.
Never settle for an interesting cocktail.
And we can always do better. So, Nick, with the Dragon's Heart in one hand, the Dragon's Revenge,
in the other,
bringing up the rear.
He has taken his revenge, most
He's taken
certainly.
his revenge. Is it time for a story?
It absolutely is. We're about an hour in, and it's definitely time for a story.
So what have you pulled out of the bag for episode 100?
Oh, this is a story that I've been wanting to do for a while.
Okay.
Never known, thinking, will it work? Will it work? It's a really cool story. Will it work? Well, fuck it, I'm doing it.
Is it your story?
It is my life story. It is the story of Nick. I was born a dragon.
Wouldn't it be, I had a moment going, what if you waited 100 episodes to confess a murder and then it was your story? I mean, on another podcast, another true crime podcast, that would be amazing. On this one, I would be very upset because we'd be going to jail. Or you would, and I would somehow be your accomplice, dragged into it, the gullible fool I am.
It's not that.
No, good. Okay, don't. Okay.
But episode 100 did seem like a fantastic occasion to talk about Dracula.
Yay!
Talk about good old-fashioned Dracula.
Now, Dracula, well, he's a fictional character, isn't he, Nick?
Well, you might think so.
I might, and I will.
You might, and you shall. But this is not at all about vampires. No Count Dracula of Transylvania here. None of him flapping about the place as a bat or...
Well, I'm not listening then.
I don't want to know.
We'll do a 30-second composite of that at the end. Come on, flappy, flappy, flappy. But it's not about the flappy, flappy.
There's no flapping, there's no talking to wolves, or any of that shenanigans.
Vampires is flappy, flappy and talking to wolves.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
And bite people.
Yeah, well, that too as well. Now, this is the story of the man who inspired Bram Stoker's tale. The very real, and probably even more terrifying, Vlad III. Now, first of all, a couple of things to clear up here.
Okay.
Firstly, he wasn't a count.
Oh.
He was a prince. He was a prince. Secondly, he didn't live in Transylvania.
Oh.
No. He lived in the neighbouring province of Wallachia.
Yes.
in modern-day Romania, though I do get why folk had changed to Transylvania.
Yes.
It does sound a lot cooler, really, doesn't it?
Transylvania,
I am
Wallachia.
Count Dracula of Wallachia. It's like, Transylvania is much better.
It would have been better if he had actually been from Cardiff, and Prince Vlad from Cardiff.
Prince Vlad of Cardiff.
Alright.
So, yeah. So during Vlad's lifetime, he gained such a reputation for violence and cruelty that tales of his bloody deeds, some real and some somewhat exaggerated, spread from his isolated corner of the world and were well known throughout Europe. One particular pamphlet, published after his death in 1499 at Nuremberg, starts... Here begins the very cruel, frightening story about a wild, bloodthirsty man, Dracula the Voivod, warlord. How he impaled people and roasted them with their heads, boiled them in a kettle, and how he skinned people and hacked them into pieces like a head of cabbage. He also roasted the children of mothers, and they had to eat their children themselves. This and many other horrible things are written in the tract, and also in about which the land he ruled. Now, this is just the title. This is
why I love the titles of pamphlets.
Right.
They really go for it.
Yeah.
Also, the entire plot is in the title.
But I will be buying that pamphlet at ye olde newsstand. I will be queuing up.
Roasted, got their heads like cabbages. You're reading that feeling very upset, going, okay, well, I don't know how much worse this can get.
Very dramatic.
Indeed.
Now, Vlad is born somewhere between 1428 and 1431.
Yeah.
Don't know exactly. He is the second son of another Vlad, and his wife, Eupraxia.
What?
His excellent name.
Praxia.
Eupraxia.
Oh, Eupraxia.
Eupraxia.
Oh, it sounds like some sort of medical condition.
Now, she is, in fact, descended from Moldavian royalty,
Ooh.
another Romanian province, so she's very fancy as well. Now, in his youth, Vlad's father, the older Vlad, had been inducted by the King of Hungary into the Order of the Dragon.
Dragons!
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 This was a chivalric order for the aristocracy that charged its members to defend Christianity against its enemies, particularly the Ottoman Empire that had been getting a bit frisky in Eastern European.
Frisky is one word for it, isn't it?
Frisky in Eastern Europe.
They were being frisky, the Romanians are being flappy.
Yeah, indeed.
Wouldn't it be great if they did actually describe it as that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And someone changed it over history going, we're not calling it that. We're not calling it that the war was not frisky.
Now, after his investiture, Vlad is given the sobriquet Dracul, the dragon.
Dracula or Dracula.
So Vlad's father is Dracula the dragon. His son, therefore, is Dracula, son of the dragon. Draculia, son of the dragon. Now, there isn't really a clear line of succession leading up to Draculia's rule. There are a great many of violent coups and an awful lot of backstabbing, but eventually Vlad II, his father, takes control of Wallachia. At the time, the country is not in a good way. There are serious threats from the Ottoman Empire, and a very real worry about invasion. To the extent that despite his heartfelt, solemn vows to fight the Turks wherever he can find them, he makes a bit of a sneaky deal with the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II.
Okay.
Vlad agrees that he will pay homage to the Sultan and secretly say that he was the big boss in all things, and in return the Sultan will not invade and kill them all.
Sure.
So potentially a good bargain to be that was struck.
I sense a catch is coming.
Yeah, but the Sultan keeps asking for more. He keeps on asking for more and more in tribute, and eventually he demands that Vlad joins the Sultan's army in raiding his neighbour in Transylvania.
Ooh.
Now, he does join in, but this does not go unnoticed, with a lot of people saying, aren't you fighting on the wrong side?
Well, yeah.
You're fighting with the Turks here against the Christians. This is not what you signed up for. The ruler of Transylvania at the time, a chap called Jun Hunyadi, goes to Wallachia and first of all says, what the fuck are you playing at? You're meant to be on my side here. And then he demands that Vlad Dracul upholds his vow to defend Christianity and join him in a crusade to push out the remaining Turks. Vlad agrees to this too. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a bit of a yes man.
Well, he is constantly switching sides. He is stuck in the middle of these two much, much stronger powers, and this back and forth continues for a number of years. But it does not go down too well, on either side, really. And in 1442, Vlad Dracul is summoned by the Sultan to the city of Edirne in northwestern Turkey, supposedly to see if they can find a diplomatic solution to all these problems that were happening. And now Vlad takes the Sultan at his word, potentially somewhat naively.
He does seem a bit Stupid.
Yeah. He believes this will be a fine opportunity to educate his young sons in the way of diplomacy and statesmanship.
Oh.
So he takes Dracula and his younger brother Radu with him to meet the Sultan.
He's the eldest, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, no, he's not the eldest. He's the second eldest.
Oh.
Elder one as well.
What was he called?
Mercia.
Oh, okay.
So the eldest son, Mercia, stays back in Wallachia. So it's probably sensible enough not to expose his heir to danger and things. But second son, third son, slightly more expendable. So take them along with him.
We're going on a road trip, Daddy. Wonderful. Mercy, are you coming with us? No, he stays at home.
He stays there.
Dad, are we going to die? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Turns out the Sultan is not going down the diplomatic route after all.
Oh dear.
And straight away takes Vlad and the two young boys hostage. Now, whether this kidnapping situation was planned all along, or whether initially there was a real desire for diplomacy, but the presence of these two young lads was too good an opportunity to pass up, don't know. I think it's probably more likely that some sort of underhand skullduggery was at hand. Now, Vlad, the elder, is sent back to Wallachia under no doubt that if he should fail to do exactly what the Sultan wanted, he is never going to see his two sons again. Thankfully for Dracula and Radu, it is in the Sultan's interest to keep them alive and well. If they are to suffer and die while they are being held, it is likely that Vlad is going to turn against the Sultan completely, go on a rampage because he killed their sons.
Yeah.
And indeed, they are treated as honoured guests. They receive lessons in science and language and philosophy, the art of war, all in the Sultan's court.
It sounds like a very tense summer camp.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Sultan is also being nice because he believes that if he can sort of bring the two young chaps around to his way of thinking, he's got a future ally in the bag. So if he's nice to them, he educates them, he brings them sort of, around to...
They're going to remember being
gonna
treated
remember
decently.
Exactly, and he's always going to have an in, when eventually one of them may well take over.
Yeah. I don't think he will remember that.
Now, I mean, Radu, the younger, is completely taken in by this and wholeheartedly embraces this world of luxury, and some rumours even say that he becomes one of the Sultan's lovers.
Sexy.
And converted to Islam.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, but Vlad, however, is not persuaded quite so easily. He takes every opportunity he can to learn everything about the people who have in fact forced their father to abandon them amongst their enemies, and he swears that one day he will get his revenge.
Clever boy. Oh, it's very Game of Thrones.
It is very.
I shall be the quiet, coiled snake in the corner, and I shall wait for the right time to strike, talking in this voice the whole time. I'm Laurence Olivier. Yes.
Now, back in...
That's what he was doing the whole time.
That's what he was doing the whole time, yeah, absolutely. Monologuing constantly.
Radu's just shacked up with a guy like, this is great.
Wandering the corridors and monologuing away.
Oh yes, enjoy my brother while you can. I shall treat you like the dog that you are. What's he doing? No idea. He's been doing that for 20 minutes.
Now, back in Wallachia, things are not going quite so well for old Dracula.
Not surprised.
Yeah. A group of nobles known as boyars, they are not at all happy with Dracula and his rule, and they are working to overthrow him and place the much more pliant and amenable Vladislav II on the throne. In 1447, Dracula is killed in the swamps surrounding his castle, and legends say that his eldest son and his heir, Mercia, is captured, tortured, and bellied alive.
Oh, wow.
Quite a dramatic, again, a Game of Thrones sort of thing going on there.
Yeah, it escalated fast.
It escalated fast, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Now, when the news reaches the Sultan that Vlad Dracula has been overthrown and is no more, and then there is now this unknown Vladislav on the throne, he decides that it's time to launch his plan into action and return Dracula to Wallachia to take control. The Sultan firmly believing that he has Dracula in his pocket at this time. And Dracula says, yeah, fine, I'll go home. I'll go and take control. Yes, absolutely. You can count on me.
Making the finger pyramid of evil contemplation. Oh, don't worry, I won't betray you. I trust him implicitly.
Yes, absolutely. You go for it. In 1448, while Vladislav is off leading an army against the Turks himself, Vlad and his Ottoman allies in inverted commas, sneak back into Wallachia and sort of take the throne by surprise. It's like rocking up in the capital one day going, hello, I'm here!
Hello, surprise!
Yes. Well, also they said it in Romanian.
Oh, yeah, because that's more impactful. Nice camp voice. Surprise! We're gonna kill you!
Yeah, he's there for about 2 months. Before Vladislav turns his army around and marches straight back to the capital and kicks Vlad out.
Okay, that does, yeah. Like, he's out of the city, like, yeah, I'm going to take this place. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Oh, they've got spiky things.
I'm going to dress up in, like, my parents' clothes. I run this house. Oh, God, they're coming home early.
Now, for the next few years, there is an awful lot of back and forth. People making and breaking alliances all over the place. At some point, Vlad told the Sultan to fuck off. Eventually, in 1456, he returns to Wallachia, this time with an army from Hungary. Now, legend has it that Vlad personally beheads his rival, Vladislav, on the battlefield. 1-to-1, single combat, in the middle of all the fighting. These two rulers face off against each other.
Oh, that's an image, isn't it?
That's a good image, absolutely.
That's a good medieval image of, like, two guys fighting it out, and then whack, the final beheading.
Exactly. Dracula slices and decapitates entirely his rival. And he is now able to sit on his father's throne once again.
And he turns up and he's blood-soaked and he slowly walks up to the throne. He sits there holding his sword. My destiny is complete.
Pretty much that's how it goes.
Love it.
It's very dramatic.
It's very dramatic. We don't get to do enough of this on this show. I'm sorry.
This is true. No, this is very true.
We love the Victorian era. It is our jam. But we don't get to go to the medieval times with big swords and thrones that much.
But there's been definite lack of thrones.
There hasn't not been enough thrones in this. Next season, thrones.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
That's my new book. A Lack of Thrones. It's a very disappointing sequel.
George R.R. Martin's commentary on his missing books.
Over the years of Vladislav's second rule, the boyars, the nobles who had deposed Dracula's father and put Vladislav on the throne, had enjoyed a considerable amount of freedom and leeway and had become incredibly rich and powerful as a result. When Vlad takes charge, he knows this cannot be allowed to continue. Firstly, these are the men who murdered his father and his brother.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's not to have definite revenge required there. But also, they have become so used to dealing with their sort of puppet rule of Vladislav that there is a definite lack of respect going on here. They ignore his commands. He asks them to do something. They go, yeah, absolutely, we'll do it when we're ready. And nothing ever happens. And he's getting really pissed off at this. This is not going to do at all. Now, the boyars themselves are a bit unsure of Dracula. What is he going to do? They think, we did kill his dad and his brother.
Sorry about that,
but he has been in Turkey an awfully long time. Perhaps he's forgotten all about that, and he's chilled right out.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
You go on a nice holiday.
Yeah, forget your troubles.
Yeah, absolutely. You forget your troubles, you forget your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So they think, well, we know we're not quite sure what's going to happen here. Shortly after Dracula's rule begins, they find out. The Boyar families are delighted to receive an invitation to a great Easter feast. They think that Dracula, he's going to play ball. They thought that this festival was his way of asking them for their support, for them legitimising his reign.
Oh my God.
On the day of the feast, hundreds of people flock in from miles and miles and miles around, all over the country. There's nobles and merchants and guild members, all set up their own little areas, very mindful of class and hierarchy, obviously. You don't want to mix too much. But there's music and games and the wine flows. Everyone's having a jolly time.
Sounds epic.
As dusk falls, Dracula stands and signals to his men. From the surrounding forests and fields, his army approaches, weapons drawn. Now, the most powerful and wealthy are quickly rounded up. Now, they are quite easily identified because they're the ones with the biggest hats, basically. They've got the fanciest costumes.
Yes,
the biggest feasting tables. And
absolutely.
Things. So the soldiers know exactly where to go first to get the high folk. The men and older sons are held still, while sharpened stakes are driven up through the bodies. Until the ends burst through the mouth or the shoulder. So we're going in through the arse.
Okay.
Straight through.
Through the mouth.
Through the mouth, through the shoulder, neck, wherever it comes out, really. It's difficult to direct I
I
think.
think they had enough people, they were trying to line them up and go, okay, this one.
This one, this one.
Yay,
Bit to the
I'm out.
left, bit to the right, bit to the left, bit to the right.
Oh my god.
All the way through. Now, for those who deserved special attention, those
That
who were
wasn't special?
No, that was your average sort of mediocre
standard.
attention.
Really?
But these were the people who were directly involved in his father's death, in his brother's death. They deserved a particular punishment.
Okay, okay.
For those people, the stakes, they're nicely rounded off.
No. Oh.
They're nice and smooth, so as not to cause too much damage on the way through. This merry Easter feast now becomes a very nice feast for the crows, as the dead and dying are left flailing high in the air on their stakes.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a very, very jolly sight.
I mean, I know the Impaler thing and the legend of Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming, but the rounded bit.
Yeah, but you
And
often
you wouldn't
think of...
die immediately, that's the thing.
No, indeed not. You would be up there for days sometimes. If they got it just right,
Yes.
and avoided all the things.
The vitals.
But also, you do sometimes think of impaling going like through the front, out the back.
No.
But no, impaling very much up through the bottom, out the top. Yeah, it's not a fun time.
It's not pleasant. Well, I think in the films they do the like through the middle, and that's because they don't want to show that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, no one wants to see that, really. From that day forward, Vlad Dracula is given another nickname. He becomes Vlad the Impaler.
There he is.
There
he is.
Dear old Vlad Tepesh, Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler. Does Tepesh mean Impaler?
Tepesh means the Impaler, yes.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes. Vlad Tepes
Because
is Vlad the Impaler.
some people have called him, Vlad Tepes was his surname, and that's wrong.
No, that's another nickname that means the Impaler.
Vlad the
Yeah.
Impaler.
Yeah. Now the women and the younger children.
Oh, God.
They are spared this horrid fate.
Nice.
Instead, they are marched off high into the mountains,
Okay.
where they are put to work rebuilding one of the ancient fortresses along the River Arge, the fortress that was to become known as Castle Dracula.
Yay!
And
But that's awful.
But they were forced to work, and they were working still in their Easter finery. They were just marched in what they were wearing, and they worked
humiliation, isn't
until the clothes fell off them, and then they worked naked, and then they died.
Yeah, and they're not going to have a good time in the
They're
middle of
not
that.
going to have a
and
jolly
that,
time.
No. Oh,
No.
no. Oh, sorry, I cheered for the Castle Dracula. Like, oh, God! Most castles are built on horrible, horrible suffering by people who did not want to build a castle.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. But then, if you're gonna send a message, it's
Yeah,
not like,
absolutely.
we'll kill the menfolk, we're not going to spare the women, we're all going to work them to
We're
death.
going to work them to death.
But then Castle Dracula, which
Castle
is
Dracula.
Castle...
Dracula.
But it's got a name now,
No,
isn't it?
you're thinking of Castle Bran,
I am thinking of Castle
which
Bran.
is not Castle Dracula.
Which is the inspiration for Bram
Which
Stoker.
is the inspiration for Bram Stoker, absolutely.
Right,
Which is
okay.
Castle Bran is in Hungary. In a later part of his life, he was imprisoned there.
Right, oh, okay.
But he never lived there. His castle was a rebuilding of an even more ancient fortress of Panari, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
And he rebuilt it, and it became Castle Dracula. But it was tucked away in the mountains, on the river, pretty much completely unsaleable. But it wasn't the big dramatic Castle Bran type thing.
No, which everyone associates with Castle Dracula, but the actual Castle Dracula is gone, I'm assuming.
It's ruins. You can go and see there, and I think there's a bit of a tower and things. I've got a book which is fantastic. It's right here. There. The author visited sometime back in the 18s, and there was one tower half standing sort of thing, and a lot of goats. So who knows what it's like?
Yeah,
what it's
very
like now.
Creepy place.
Oh, creepy place, but incredibly out of the way. It's not the sort of place that they have tour buses going to and things, because it is days hike into the mountains to get to this place. It is so isolated. Maybe one day we'll
go.
Now Vlad is delighted with the results of his Easter feast.
He's just taking a stock take at the end.
He's having
All
a
right,
great-
everyone, with a clipboard out. Well, how did we think? That went very well.
That went very well.
We
everyone.
impaled all the men that we wanted to.
Yeah.
We're building a castle. Excellent
work,
great. And
everyone.
also, your little tartlets, delicious, I must add. You fail tomorrow, gonna kill you.
In a single day, he had wiped the Boyars off the face of the map, really. He had revenged his father and his brother quite spectacularly, and made sure the Only the incredibly foolish would ever challenge him again. As Dracula settled into his rule, now fairly confident that he's going to be in there fairly long term, he is visited by diplomatic envoys from the Sultan, from the Ottoman Empire. The Sultan wants to know why he hadn't received his due tribute. Wallachia had always paid diligently under Vladislav II, and the Sultan saw no reason why Dracula wouldn't continue this. After all, as a boy, he had been educated in the Sultan's court. They were mates. They were chums, he thought.
We're pals, aren't we?
Why wouldn't he continue to show fealty to the Sultan?
I just want to wet my beak, that's all I want.
This delegation approached Vlad in his throne room. Dracula asked why they insulted him so by not removing their turbans out of respect.
Oh.
A Western person might remove their hat.
Their hat, but you don't.
But yes, the envoys replied that it's against their religion to remove their turban in public. Now Vlad claps his hand and congratulates the men on their religious devotion, and said that he will do everything he can while they are in his lands to make sure that they are always so pious. He then has the men's turbans nailed to their heads, so they will never have to remove them again.
Oh, man alive. Oh, that got so bad so fast.
I drew you in, he was being nice, and then, ha!
That's deeply disturbing.
Yeah, no, a nail through the head.
Just carry on, Nick. It's going to take me a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, he does seem to have a bit of an issue with religion. On the one hand, he is deeply fearful about what his actions and things will do for his immortal soul, and he builds hundreds of monasteries and churches and gives money and things, and has armies of monks praying for his soul and things like that, meanwhile going out killing hundreds of thousands of people because he can. But one day he is visited by some monks from a nearby monastery, and as they arrive in the castle, they are fairly horrified at the sight of impaled corpses lining the road up to the capital. Now Dracula has a habit of meeting visitors surrounded by his victims, somewhat daring guests to comment or disapprove of the decorations.
Comment on my decor, why
yeah,
don't
exactly.
you?
If anyone says anything, then it's disrespectful.
Yes.
And does anyone dare to say anything?
It's a very ballsy move, and it's used through history as well, is that I'm going to stand here with something horrifying or something very strange in front of you, and if you comment on it, you're either killed or you're out of the social circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Truman Capote did that, not with corpses.
Not with corpses.
Just with some of his parties when he had just had soapy water on the floor and no one was able to comment on it. I think he was inspired.
Yeah, inspired by Dracula, absolutely. Now, on this particular occasion, one of the monks has the audacity to gag from the stench of these rotting bodies. Now,
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing a monk coming in, really pious, going, "Fucking hell! What? Shh, Steve, honestly, Steve. No. Being sick in their mouths and swallowing it the whole time.
Pretty much. Now, I mean, Dracula asks the monk if there is anything wrong, is anything awry. Now, foolishly or bravely, the monk replies that the smell offends him. Could they perhaps speak elsewhere? Dracula, on this occasion, has an extra long spike prepared for the monk, so he's going to be high above the smell, and he would not be troubled with it as he died.
Ooh, that's cold. That's just brilliant, really. I mean, awful,
but very clever.
Monks just sidestepping away from him. He does not represent us.
Absolutely. No.
We love the smell.
We're not with him. Steve the monk is very stupid.
He's been dragged out. Wait, it's fine, honestly.
I don't mind it after all. Going back now to the nailing of the turbans of the head.
Yes.
Now, this rather annoyed the Turks, and the Sultan was not best pleased by this response.
You'd be annoyed.
You would be annoyed. And he sends raiding parties across the border, supposedly to teach this upstart a bit of a lesson. He is supposed to be on their side. But for Dracula is a formidable strategist. He's been taught a bit too well at the Sultan's court, and he predicts their every move. He captures thousands of prisoners, and of course very few make it back. Fortunately, Vlad's chroniclers are sticklers for details, and they kept meticulous records. Now, I'm going to butcher many names of Romanian places here, so I apologise. Okay. So in Oblutica and Selvo, 1,350 Ottomans impaled, 6,840 in Distor, Katal and Ditchaprum, 630 at Usica, 6,441 in Gerju, 1,460 in Rahova, 479 in Novograd and Sitstrova, and 210 in Marushu. So they like their lists.
That's a lot of spikes.
That's a lot of spikes. It's an awful lot of spikes. Where's he getting all these spikes from? He's an army of people just whittling down trees.
Apparently so. And these people just desperate not to get a single one wrong.
Yeah.
He seems like the sort of person who just automatically knows how many it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
456. It was 457. Get the spikes.
He did like to change things up every now and again. I mean, roasting alive, that's always fun. Beheading, boiling, flailing.
Flailing.
All jolly, jolly good fun, but the Impaler did like a classic impaling.
Exactly. Isn't flailing really just a bit of a micro peel in these day and age? Flailing, renew the skin.
Flaying, not flailing. Flailing's a bit like...
Well, a bit like Dracula.
Flaying. Flaying.
That's less fun.
That's less fun.
Yeah.
In 1453, the Ottomans capture the city of Constantinople, and now this ends the Eastern Roman Empire entirely. And most of Europe is now terrified by this development. If they can take Constantinople, then nowhere is safe. They could be in Rome by Tuesday, for all they know. So it's a scary, scary thing. Pope Pius II loudly proclaims the virtues of Dracula and his victories against the infidel hordes, quietly sleeping the methods under the rug. No, we don't talk about those, but he's getting results, and that's what counts.
That's it. That's
what
it.
counts.
The man gets results. He may be a
results.
bit of a shit, but he's getting results.
Absolutely, and the Pope has no issue whatsoever in pardoning Dracula
Wow.
all these sins, all these terrible, terrible things he's done, because he's done it for the good of Christendom. It's all fine. God says it's fine.
If you're the Pope, you're going to go, absolutely fine. Clearly, this is beyond my means. You've got good intentions? Ish. For the Lord.
Yeah, that's what he tells himself. It's all for the good of the Lord. By 1460, the Sultan has had enough of this prince and decides that he has to do away with him once and for all. There is no redeeming this man. He assembles an army of 150,000 men, leads it personally across the Danube into Wallachia. The Sultan is accompanied by Radu, Vlad's younger brother, who has remained with the Sultan all along. And by now he is 100% the Sultan's man. The ultimate aim is to remove Vlad and place Radu on the throne as a complete vassal puppet leader, absolutely. Now Vlad knows that he cannot hope to defeat an army of that size.
No.
So he resorts to guerrilla tactics to try and defeat his enemies. He poisons wells, he burns farms to deprive the enemy of supplies. He releases hardened criminals and pays them a coin for each turban that they bring back to him. So the assumption that a Turk will not give up his turban willingly.
No, it's been nailed to their head.
So every turban you bring back, we're going to pay you for it. And
yes.
He empties the prisons. He also uses an early form of germ warfare. He pays the sick to make their way into the Ottoman camps to spread disease.
Really?
Particularly prostitutes and things ladies who may not be overly concerned about personal hygiene. I'm going to spread chlamydia throughout the Ottoman camp or something.
It's that line from The Office, isn't it? All got Nobrotov's tart.
Exactly.
And they're just like, ow, I've got cystitis.
So I think Dracula is much, much easier to defeat an army of constantly itching men. More oozing going on there.
Oh dear, it's just VD rampant through the troops. And I was thinking you were like, maybe plague.
Oh, I mean that as well.
Cholera, or
leprosy, plague, cholera, all that. Anything he's got.
Shove them through, dressed up.
Yeah, they dressed up in Turkish clothing. Of all the prisoners they've taken, they've got plenty of clothes.
Oh, that's a very good idea.
Now, one night in 1462, Vlad leads his army in a surprise attack on the main Ottoman camp in hopes of assassinating the Sultan himself. His men are all dressed in Turkish clothes, and they charge into this camp. Now, at first, the Ottomans assume that these are soldiers back for some excursion, and they are allowed to pass, riding deeper and deeper and deeper into the camp, where the Sultan's tent sits right in the middle.
He's got enough turbans.
He's got an awful lot of turbans. Now, as they ready to charge, alarm bells start going off, and the Turkish soldiers around them begin to realise that something is very, very wrong. Dracula presses on and charges into the tent, swords slashing all over the place, killing everyone in sight. Unfortunately, they get the wrong tent.
Oh.
Now, several of the Sultan's top viziers are butchered But the Sultan himself remains unharmed. Now outside, camp guards are starting to respond, but they have no idea who the enemy is.
Yeah.
They are all dressed just like them, so the guards starting attacking anyone they don't recognise, which in an army of 150,000 is going to be a few.
It's going to be a lot, yeah. And they're in there just in the catering tent, just cutting down chefs.
So the men who are being attacked by the guards assume the guards are the enemy who's attacking them and start fighting back.
Good tactic,
So,
just to
yeah.
start chaos.
So, there is entire absolute chaos. And now seeing this madness, Vlad retreats, leaving the Turks butchering each other, until they finally realise that the enemy has long since fled. And it turns out that more have been killed by friendly fire than have been killed by the attackers in the first place.
Whoa.
Now, the Sultan is furious. He's livid at this. Not only have a considerable number of his men died, but they tried to kill him. They were after him personally. That's just not on. So he immediately orders that the army march to and lay siege to the capital of Targovista. Now, as the Sultan and his army approach the city, they know something is very, very, very wrong. For 60 miles around, surrounding the now abandoned city, the corpses of Turkish prisoners are lined up on stakes.
Nice.
Over 23,000 men, women and children create a forest of the impaled, it became known as, surrounding the capital. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dead and dying prisoners of war.
Couldn't make it up. That
You
is
really
also,
couldn't.
The staging of that, it takes a lot of work.
It really does.
It's the admin behind it. It still gets me. Like, they're waiting for them to turn up. Like, come on. Are we going to finish our quota of spiking today? Come on, paint the sets and polish the spikes. And then they turn up. There it is. That's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
But it worked.
Yeah, but it does work. And it is reported that the Sultan is seized by amazement, they say. And he says that it is not possible to deprive of his country a man who has done such great deeds, who had such a diabolical understanding of how to govern his realm and its people. A man who has done such things was worth much.
So now, on one hand, unbelievable what I am seeing. It's not just it's amazing. It's not like a chicken wing or something like that, you know.
No, I think it's slightly more than a chicken wing.
This is insanely good. That's amazing. Or he is just going, he is gonna kill all of us. I'm going to backtrack massively and just say he's awesome and just very quietly walk backwards out of this mess.
I also think he slightly goes, I taught him everything he knows. I think there's a slight pride thing going on there as well. The Sultan, he is no stranger to violence and horrendous atrocities. But to see his protege has...
But it wasn't his protege, was it? You know, but I agree that he probably looks at it. I mean, if you're confronted with that sight, you are going to go, I am beaten.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is beyond the work that it would take to do that display, not just kill them, but to send that message, the commitment and the time and the effort. You are going to go, okay, no way. But also, he might walk away going, I told him everything he knows. And he's going, you fucking didn't.
Yeah. And indeed, the Ottoman forces, they retreat the next day. A man who could do this, there's no winning against him. But what they decide, what they can't accomplish by force, they think they can accomplish by stealth. They leave Dracula's brother, Radu, in Wallachia with a huge amount of cash.
Strapped to him.
and he's got a few people to carry the cash as well.
Okay.
And he sets about gathering support from the remains of the noble families that Vlad hadn't butchered, promising a return to the good old days if they would support him and help get rid of this despot.
Love a stealth mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the Ottoman cash helps considerably in persuading these people that, he's the one to go for. He's the one to back. But also, by this time, the people of Wallachia are tired of constant wars and seeing anyone who disagrees with anything put on a spike. That's going to get frustrating after a while.
Yes.
Sort of like, I went to go and see my mate, he was on a spike. So people are not overly happy with how things are going. And in 1462, a rebellion led by Radu and local nobles forces Dracula off the throne.
Wow.
Now he flees to Hungary, where he hopes to get support for the ruler there, Matthias Corvinus, known as the Raven King.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
Matthias had supported Vlad in the past in his fight against the Ottomans. This time he was facing difficulties of his own, and he doesn't really have the resources or the time to help his old friend. The Impaler's reputation is now firmly established, and was he really the sort of person that he wanted to be associated with? Really? Probably not. It's not going to do his own position much good, and probably really piss off the Sultan as well, if it finds out that he's giving Vlad assistance. So instead, the Raven King has Vlad locked up. Out of sight, out of mind, he is imprisoned in Castle Bran.
Yay!
And he is held there for 12 years, where apparently he passes the time by capturing birds and mice and impaling them on tiny, tiny spikes.
No, he doesn't.
Well, that's what I've read 3 different reports, 3 different things that said that.
Really?
Yeah. It may be bollocks made up afterwards by his enemies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And been put in pamphlets and such like, very possibly. But there are a number of different sources that that's come from.
That just seems so weird.
but
That implies that he is insane. That is just I will impale anything. He only did all this stuff because he really likes impaling.
He likes it because it's fun.
Yeah, that seems like hyperbole at the time.
Absolutely. I think it's more than likely it is. Yeah.
Psychopath, possibly, so he's harming animals. Yeah.
I think likely it is. Yeah, propaganda against him later on, or
Booty.
people embellishing dramatic stories to sell
Yeah.
pamphlets.
Yeah.
Potentially. While Vlad is locked up in Hungary, his younger brother Radu sits on the throne of Wallachia. But as time goes on, it's all getting a bit too Ottoman-y for the boys. It's all he's a bit too chummy with the Sultan. And when Radu dies in 1475, the boys, they start to feel slightly nostalgic for the good old spiky days. There's a bit of cash in that as well. They start to miss those old days, and they begin campaigning for Dracula's return to power. And so in 1476, with the help of the Prince of Moldavia, Stephen Bathory,
No!
Elizabeth Bathory's great-great-grandfather.
Nice.
Vlad is able to steal back the throne one final time.
Oh my god.
Now, unfortunately, it does not last long. His final reign lasts just 2 months. After taking the throne, the Ottomans invade yet again, determined to put one of their puppets on the throne. And in December 1476, Vlad is ambushed by Barsabab.
Ooh, good name.
Barsabab, the Ottoman claimant to the throne, and his Turkish allies near the island monastery of Snagov. Now, some versions say that Vlad is killed in his camp by a Turkish assassin. Others say that he dies in battle again in single combat against Barsabab.
Yeah, of course.
And this time he himself is beheaded. For Dracula, there is no coming back from the dead for this Dracula.
Not for this one.
Not for this one.
I love the way you elbowed that in there, didn't you?
Get it in there. There are differing versions of what happened next. Some say that his head is paraded back to Constantinople, placed in the hands of the Sultan, who displays it on a spike over the gate, all very dramatic.
Yeah.
Other versions say that in the dead of night, monks from the nearby monastery, which Dracula had founded, carried away his body and buried it under the altar in the church.
Nice.
Those subsequent excavations at the monastery found no trace of Dracula's final resting place at all, so no one knows where he ended up. After Vlad's death, the rumours and legends about his life went into overdrive throughout Europe. The recently invented printing press could not keep up with people's macabre fascination. Some called him a monster, to others he was a hero, who only did what was necessary to defend Christianity. One pamphlet, the frightening and truly extraordinary story of a wicked, blood-drinking tyrant called Prince Dracula, helped cement into history the legend of Dracula drinking blood of his victims. And it was accompanied by images of him dining in a field of impaled men and women. It's quite a famous woodcut that you've probably seen. It's probably very unlikely that actually happened.
Again, it's just like he's lording it over.
It's a good image.
Oh, it's a good image.
It's a good image, absolutely. Another pamphlet gives details of a mischievous tyrant called Dracula, about how he boiled people alive in a big copper cauldron. I think mischievous is a slight understatement. Mischievous
is kind of, what a little scamp. Oh,
yes,
look at him
that
there.
Little scamp of a tyrant over there.
Have you impaled all your friends again? Oh, Dracula.
It is estimated that over 80,000 people were murdered on the instruction of Vlad the Impaler. Many in war, but many more simply for revenge, for real or imagined slights, and just generally to instill terror in his people and his enemies. In the end, Dracula only ruled for about 8 years. And he may well have remained a forgotten figure, unknown to everyone outside of Romania. But then comes along a Mr. Stoker. Mr. Stoker, who, while researching his new book, based on blood-sucking vampires from Romania, he comes across a name that he likes the sound of, Dracula.
Dracula.
And so Vlad III became one of the most famous monsters of all time. Story of Dracula. The real story of Dracula. None of that vampire nonsense.
Yay! Yay, Nick! Oh, what a great story. Oh, thank you.
Bit different, but
Nope.
I enjoyed it.
Perfect. It's Dracula. It's episode 100. Wonderful. Wonderful telling of a real monster.
A real monster. Absolute
Real life monster. Everything that we see on TV and series and films, and we read in books and we go, that couldn't have possibly happened.
Oh, it did.
No, it did,
Yes.
because he did it.
Yes.
Love it. Love the history of Count Dracula. Not a count at
Not a
all.
count.
Bram Stoker, when he was working in theatre, and just was pouring through history and tales and legend and folklore about vampires in Romania.
There was a particular book written by I think it was someone in the British consulate in Romania,
Yes.
and he wrote like a history of Romania and the provinces, which mentioned Dracula, the son of the dragon, in a fairly dull. I've skimmed through a copy, so you can get it on PDF online, and it's fairly dull sort of. Then this person did this, and that person did this, but the name Dracula is there, and even now, Dracula has like two meanings in Romania. Some it's the dragon, others it's the devil. Dracula can also be son of the devil as well. So that really, I think, fixed in Stoker's mind that this is a good name. This is a really good name for this vampire story that he was working on.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Until then, Dracula, the historical Dracula, had never been associated with vampires.
No.
I think in Bram Stoker's book, he just picked the name. He was not thinking of the historical person behind it. In the book, he's not referred to as Vlad. There is no mention of impaling in the book at all. It was just a cool name. But the two things have just over the many years just been merged into one thing.
Yes.
It's just been inextricably linked now.
In some of the film versions of it, in some of the adaptations of Bram Stoker, they've decided, let's do the history and let's tell the backstory. And obviously, Bram Stoker's Dracula, one of our favourite films, they really go in on that.
They really go in with the history on that, which is added in.
Which is bollocks
which is not
as well.
in the book at all, and which is added in very
Which
much
is very mashed
later.
in there together, like, Vlad, I'm Vlad, I'm a bloodsucker.
Well, it's interesting, actually. The 1992 film is one of my favourite films ever. It's fantastic. In Romania, Vlad III, Dracula, is a bit of a folk hero. He fought against the invading Muslims and stuff like that. He's a bit of a hero. And in Romania, there had been no connection whatsoever with Dracula. Bram Stoker's The Book and things had not reached Romania, especially after the Soviet Union, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They just had not reached across. So it wasn't until the 1992 film that they realised that people thought their national hero was a vampire. And they were not best pleased by this sudden development that they discovered. Because he's on stamps. There are statues of him in Romania and things like that as this sort of strong national hero. And the rest of the world thinks of him as a bloodthirsty vampire.
Two different interpretations of history. But the real story is far more fascinating.
It is indeed. Slightly more monstrous.
Well, it's a great story. That had everything. You know, the bit of history, but still like, oh God. What did these people was very okay with making a statement, with making a theatrical statement.
Yeah. But I mean, he wasn't the only one. I think anyone who was a leader at that time, especially in that part of the world, you had to be strong, violent, vicious people. His son, who actually ruled not directly after, but he took the throne, was known as Mania the Bad.
It's a terrible name.
It's a terrible name, but because he tried to emulate his father, but he didn't succeed. He ruled for about 6 months or something.
Well, that's it. That we single out Vlad the Impaler and Vlad because of the association with Dracula, because he's famous, and we go, he was particularly ruthless. Was he any more ruthless or bloodthirsty or crazy than any of the other people there at the time? Yeah. I think the field of the spiky people,
that's particularly vicious. It has to be said.
But having to send a message to the Ottoman Empire to say, okay, if they're coming for you, we've really got to pull this out of the bag, lads. We can't just fight them. We've really got to make a visual statement, full theatrics. So fair enough, but really his actions in comparison of other people at the time, not acceptable, but not particularly worse than anyone else. Oh, a great story. Well, what do you think, people. Do you know the story of Vlad, the son of the dragon, Dracula, whatever other accents you want to use while saying his name? Do you know this area of history? Is it an area you're particularly fascinated with? If you've got more stories, share them with us. Should we do more stories about vampires? There are real life vampires out there.
Yeah, I definitely think a vampire thing is worth exploring.
Yeah, there have been murders committed by people who think they are vampires. Modern and ancient history and a lot of folklore associated with vampires. It's an area that Nick and I know very well, being gothy children when we were growing up. Oh yes, let's read about that. So if you are interested in hearing more stories like this, please do send us suggestions. But most importantly, you've got a choice of 2 cocktails to mix up this week. One that's a legitimate one. One is that's something that came out of Sinead's head.
Yeah, I would definitely go with the one that came out of Sinead's head.
Well, hey!
The Dragon's Revenge, was it?
It was the Dragon's Revenge.
Yes, absolutely. I would go with that one.
I will try and put the recipe
Write
out.
it down before you leave.
I will. I'll write it down. We'll also put the Dragon's Heart out there, which is a perfectly nice cocktail. Yeah. It's just more summery and light and fluffy.
Doesn't live up to its name, I feel.
No, it's not. It's not really appropriate for Dracula.
Entirely agree.
Don't think he'd be sipping one on the battlefield.
on the veranda, surrounded by his corpses. That's what he had in his goblet there, surrounded by his field of corpses.
Exactly. That's why he had the Impalers, because he was squeezing the lime, and that's where he got the idea. And he went, "Hang on, that's a bloody good way to get juice out of a lime." That's what this has taken for me to work this out.
Yeah, okay. Let's go with that.
But you'll have a choice of 2 cocktails today. And of course, mix up your own cocktails and tag us in any pictures. Thank you to so many of our fans actually have been sending us more pictures of them enjoying cocktails from around the world and actually showing us the recipes when they've been in different bars. That's really useful because it just gives us more content. So thank you for sharing those with us. We will, as we said, be releasing our special giveaway this weekend. So keep your eyes peeled on social media. Also, we have a P.O. box now.
Oh, yes, we do.
We do. We've left it to the end of the episode to mention this. Many of you are just like, oh, I'm switching off now. P.O. Box we have. It's in the profile of our Instagram account. We have shared it on all of our social media accounts. So if you do want to send us anything, Nick's birthday is coming up.
Oh, shush.
You can use the P.O. Box. Just send us nice things. If there's anything unsealed or you've homemade, we can't use it or open it. I'm so sorry. It's not going to happen. No poison. We cannot stress that highly enough. But use the P.O. Box if you want to, and come and join us on Patreon, for it is a lovely, lovely place. But now, enjoy the wonderful vampire-y Dracula mood that we have set for you, and think about who you would like to impale on spikes. Not that you're going to. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the poisoner's cabinet. We will see you next week, and remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.